she is our granddaughter, and she was born at 24 and a half weeks, 1.5 pounds,
Oh my goodness.
up in Juneau, Alaska in 2013. And way too early to come into the world, but she was ready.
Curious, huh? Okay.
And they medevaced her to University Hospital in Seattle within hours of her birth because of the level of care she would require. And that first few days, we didn't know whether she'd live or die, of course. And she has, we call her a miracle child because she is just a fighter. And she was 5 months in the NICU in Seattle. And her parents obviously lived in Alaska as well, and at the time of her release, they would not allow her to return to Juneau because of the lack of facility and medical care that she would be required to receive for at least the next 2 years of her life.
Wow.
So they had a choice of remaining in Washington with somebody they knew, or they would send her to Anchorage. But the kids, her parents, didn't know anybody there. We were here, and so on her release from the hospital, they all moved in with us. And she's been with us ever since, except for a few short months. And so she has our heart and part of our life, and she has thrived through some really big obstacles. She had a brain hemorrhage, level 4 brain hemorrhage at birth. She was on a ventilator for weeks and weeks and weeks. She had ended up with some frozen vocal cords in part of her esophagus, so she had trouble creating sound. She couldn't cry. And she also could not do the process of drinking from a bottle. You have to be able to suck, breathe, and swallow at the right sequence.
Right. Get it out of order.
She never got that. So she had a G-tube in her nose for feeding, and then about at age 2, they inserted it surgically in her stomach, and she had that removed in Seattle at age 3. So she has 2 belly buttons.
What a plate full of stuff for a little nipper to deal with. Huh?
Yeah. But she's a fighter, and I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mike.
No, it's just that she, like Donna said, we just didn't know what was going to happen to her when she came down to Seattle, and just, it's just amazing where she is right now. So, with all the help we've been getting.
So I imagine when something comes into your life, like, hey, guess what? Your great granddaughter's 1.5 pounds. You never think, well, we'll be blowing out 5 candles someday.
Yeah, we never thought that. And at the beginning we didn't. But we have a deep faith, and just put her in God's hands every day.
When you say it is a miracle,
it is.
She's a miracle baby, and that's a commonly heard phrase around the children's hospitals and neonatal intensive care units and things like that. So when you start out as a batch of ingredients instead of a fully baked cake, there's a lot of hurdles that maybe would normally be handled in the womb that don't get done, and so you're learning to do them on the outside.
Exactly.
So from feeding and speaking and everything else. So I imagine that there's been a ton of therapy in her young life then in various phases along the way.
There has been. When we knew she was coming to Yakima, University Hospital coordinated the transfer of care to Memorial, and through that we had her assessed at Children's Village, evaluated, and she was eligible for the early intervention program, which is birth to 3. And we had some amazing therapists come to our home several times a month and work with her. She had speech therapy because of her vocal cord situation in the beginning, and occupational and physical therapy in the home. And during that time, her parents were dealing with their own issues and ended up separating, and basically abandoned her before her 3rd birthday. And so
which isn't unheard of either. I mean, part of the miracle story is usually about a family that's pulled together stronger by a challenge. But let's face it, that's not a guarantee, and oftentimes it's such an obstacle that people can't even imagine their lives going forward under their current circumstance. And so I guess that's kind of what happened with you guys, huh?
Well, some other issues of their making, but yeah. But since she was already such a part of our life, it was an easy transition for us and an easy decision. We went through a 2-year legal custody battle, and actually had the most amazing help from Children's Village staff through that process. Not directly, but they supported us with letters of support for court hearings, explaining the level of care that Serenity required, and the importance of the constant
continuity.
Yeah, exactly. And so the whole experience with Children's Village, you know, is just, they're amazing, and we couldn't have asked for a better experience with them.
You know, it's funny because we use the term, "Oh, that's amazing," all the time. that is one place where amazing becomes very real, doesn't it?
It does,
yeah. It's just, you know, like you say, when we first started going through the Children's Village, you know, we didn't know what to expect down there, but they were so helpful and let us know what was going on all the time, and it was just amazing what their skill and what they were doing, and their friendliness towards the adults that were helping, you know, so they could understand everything that was going on. It was just amazing work they did.
Really special.
I know she'll overcome any traumas that she experienced. So.
You talk about having a strong faith. It strikes me there's a book of Job that's probably helped in the patience arena a time or two, and you talk about what we were asked to deal with as people in this world. There are no guarantees, but so here we have the Serenity, and she was fighting for life to begin with, and now she fights to get into normal life as much as possible, typical life, and she's got a couple of a lion and a lioness on her side right here to help make sure that that's going to happen. So despite the struggle to begin, thanks to the good folks in our children's hospitals and Children's Village, and particularly locally, she has that fighting chance, right?
She does, yes. And I have to say that before we got involved with Children's Village and Memorial at this level, we were aware of them, of course, and knew that they provided special needs services for children and families. But we just thought of them kind of as like another doctor's office in town. And now we know better, and we know the importance of supporting them, because, you know, it's a combination of funding, like so many wonderful agencies have to go through, and it's really important for people like your listeners and myself and my husband to give back and to keep those services local and to let them expand and serve many more children. And I just have to say that whatever people can give will make a difference. I guarantee it.
You are a natural, Donna.
No, there's no way.
Guys, anything else you want to add? And dreams for her? What's your hopes and dreams down the road? Because, you know, I mean, if she's 5 now, I mean, you both look like a couple of tough birds here, but I don't know if you're going to make it to 130. So, what's
I know our dreams. Well, she's a pretty typical 5-year-old girl. She loves horses and unicorns.
Nice.
And wants to grow up to be a horse rider. I don't know if that pays real well, but
she gets to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, maybe. Our dream for her is just to have the most normal childhood as possible, with the least interruption because of her condition. And we want her to grow up to know that she's not defined by her diagnosis. She's defined by her own strengths and her own abilities and her own talent to make it in the world. And she is tough, and you know, there might be some issues in school down the road. Kids can be, you know, cruel when you're different, but we want to make different a good thing in her mind, and it's okay to be different. And so that's our dream, is just to have her grow up to be just a normal kid with normal dreams, and we hope to be around to see her graduate.
Well, she's blessed with some pretty special great-grandparents. Donna and Mike Hatton, thanks for coming in
Thanks
sharing
for
your
having
story.
us. Yeah.
And best of good luck. We'll see you at graduation.
Yes,
Oh,
there you
yes.
go.